Hi, everyone. This is Kelly Crane, and this is today's daily reading with Kelly. This reading comes from the book Love Without Conditions by Paul Ferrini. And today's reading is coming from page 49. You have learned conditional love from people whose love for you was compromised by their own guilt and fear. These have been your role models. You need not be ashamed of this. You need only be aware of it as fact. From the time you were an infant, you were conditioned to value yourself only when people responded positively to you. You learned that your self-worth was established externally. That fundamental error has perpetuated itself throughout your life. Your parents' experience was no different than yours, nor was your children's experience. All of you need to heal from the same wounds. All trespasses or violations must be made conscious, and the emotions attached to them must be released. This is the way that all wounded beings move from the experience of conditional love to the experience of love without conditions. In the process of healing, you learn to give yourself the unconditional love you never received from your biological parents. And in this process, you are born again and reparented, not by authority figures, but by the source of love inside you. I love this idea of reparenting. You know, when I work with my clients, that's one of the things we do often is, figure out the wounds from childhood and then try to parent ourselves to counter those wounds. So there's some good stuff in here. I like this part. Your parents' experience was no different from yours, nor was your children's experience. So this is important to remember. We are all working from our own wounds. Okay. Your parents worked from their wounds and did the best they could with you. And then you will also work from your own wounds and do the best you can with your kids, right? So eventually your kids are going to have to heal from the wounds that you're giving them now. I love this. I have three kids, and my youngest is 5. My oldest is almost, oh gosh, she is 27 now. Anyways, I've seen, the range, and it's interesting to talk with my 27-year-old daughter because she and I can talk openly about the mistakes I made as a young mom, and the wounds that she had to heal from and is still healing from. Right? Does that make me a bad person? No. Does it make me a bad parent? No. It just means that I'm human and I'm flawed, and I was working from my own wounding that I hadn't healed yet. So my 5-year-old is getting a very different mother than my 27-year-old did because I've done a lot of this healing over the last 20 years, right? So yeah, all trespasses, violations must be made conscious and the emotions attached to them must be released. So this is, you know, I'm working with a client now, and she's kind of in this place of like awakening to her past and just kind of awakening to the experience that she has grown up in, and is realizing the damage that was done. And in that place of like awakening to all that, that is like terrifying. Okay. That is a terrifying place to be because all we have is our past experience. And if we're awakening to the idea that the past experience has kind of in some ways created this pain that we're in, right? It creates actually more pain initially because there's a lot of grief that comes up about how our childhoods should have gone, and we didn't get that, so we grieve over that. There's a lot of anger that comes up because we're angry at our parents or our caregivers for the things that they did or didn't do. and we're really sad. There's a lot of sadness that comes in because now, again, it goes with the grief. We're sad for our child selves who didn't really get the experience that they should have gotten, right? And then there's this other component of anxiety and fear about, okay, this was my entire existence. This is what I know. And now what? Right? Like now where do I go from here? Like this is the reality, right? My past is my reality. Now what? Now I'm awakening to all this stuff and it's like, oh my, now what? How do I go forward? What do I do now? So in here he talks about the reparenting, right? All trespasses must be made conscious and the emotions attached to them must be released. So we talked about the emotions that come up, that those need to be released. They can't keep being like repressed. Okay. So you got to work with like a therapist or even a trusted friend, recovery partner, like somebody that you can share with honestly about some of these feelings, and somebody who isn't going to shut you down for them, but allow you to express them and validate you during that process. Those need to be released. And then skipping ahead a little bit, in the process of healing, you learn to give yourself the unconditional love you never received from your biological parents. In this way, in this process, you're born again and reparented, not by other authority figures, but by the source of love inside yourself. Okay, so this is the what next. Okay, when we're in that place of fear and sadness and anger and grief, and we've expressed that to a trusted friend again who has validated us. We also need to do that for ourselves, by the way. Like we need to validate our own experience. That's part of the reparenting process, is like being okay with the anger, with the sadness, with the grief, with the fear that comes up. Like we need to allow ourselves to express that and stop denying it. Okay. We need to stop like, oh, it was in the past, it doesn't matter. Or you know, I dealt with that. I'm okay. Like, let's just stop denying it and for once really kind of feel it, really get in there and let this stuff come out because it needs to. I'm betting you that your 5-year-old self didn't get to do this, didn't get to like express emotions and be validated. I'm guessing that's probably the case. So we do that now for ourselves by validating ourselves, but also choosing people that can validate us, right? And then giving ourselves the unconditional love. So that validation is part of the unconditional love. That means that for me, like I'm talking to my 5-year-old self saying, Kelly, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be sad. I get it. Of course you'd be sad. Of course you'd be experiencing grief right now. Yeah, let that out. That's okay. It's okay. Right. And we learn to validate and have patience and love. We're loving ourselves. We're retraining ourselves to feel what it feels like to be loved and validated and accepted for these big feelings that maybe in the past were denied by our parents or put away, right? We grow up in families sometimes where it's like, you better stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about, or like, you're out of control, go to your room until you can calm down. Right? We're sent away with our big feelings. So now as an adult, we get to reparent ourselves by validating those big feelings and letting them happen. Like they need to come out. They need to. So in this way of reparenting, we're developing the unconditional love for ourselves by the first step is just like letting ourselves express it, letting ourselves express these emotions. We're reparented not by other authority figures, but by the source of love inside yourself. So like you already have this. What he's saying here is you already have the love inside yourself. It's like the source. Again, this is like if you're a spiritual person, this is God, this is Holy Spirit, right? If you're Christian, this is like our higher selves, right? The self, capital S within. These are all the source, right? It's the source of all of everything. It's already in us. So let's be parented by that thing and not keeping ourselves stuck by what happened in our past by our human parents. Like we get to now reparent ourselves. So I love this. Again, Love Without Conditions. It's a really, really good book. Yeah. And this idea, and I know I keep choosing readings that are kind of on this same track because I think it's so important, right? I think it's so important that we like validate ourselves for our experience as children, learn what happened, become really aware of that, let ourselves grieve, and then move forward, right? And some of these other readings we'll do, we'll talk more about like how to move forward. But today this reading is really emphasizing the idea of like letting ourselves feel. Okay. So awesome. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.